Hi guys, Boonbrand here today, and today we're going to be talking about how to fix the solo queue experience, because yesterday we talked about the killer base kit changes and how those are wonderful, but the elephant in the room with that is that the weakest role in the game is not killer. The weakest role in the game is solo queue survivor. So by naturally by buffing something, even if it's not by a lot, buffing something that is above the weakest role in the game makes that role even weaker, which you don't want. Like I say in my power disparity video, you want most things in the game, perks, powers, roles, to be in the A and the B tier, ideally if you want a perfect world. So now we moved the killer up closer to that B tier. We're getting there. We're sliding them up slowly, but solo queue survivor is still down here. Especially if the changes like overcharge and thanatophobia go live, solo queue experience is going to be incredibly painful. So how do we bring them up with the killer side? That way we can make things more fair and more fun for the solo queue experience. I did poll this on my YouTube community tab. I picked some of the, I would feel like, the most common suggestions that I see on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter when it comes to how to buff solo queue to make it kind of more in line with the killer experience. And the big one that I see a lot is Kindred base kit. Kindred base kit. If you don't know what Kindred does, it's when somebody is on the hook, you can see the pink aura of the killer for a short range around the hook, so you get to see where they go and if they come back to the hook at any point. This is incredibly helpful because this A lets you know if they're camping, B lets you know the direction the killer is headed after they have hooked the person so you can adjust accordingly, and C, if the killer isn't around and hasn't been on Kindred for a while, it lets you know it's okay to go for the save, so that helps with saving a lot. So it makes sense that this is the perk that most people have ID'd as the one they want to be added base kit to Survivor. Now I actually tested this. I played a full 6 hours of DBD on stream solo queue, and I did half my games with Kindred and about half my games without Kindred. And I am here to tell you that Kindred didn't have a huge impact, but it did have a positive impact. So let's go ahead and break that down. So when I was playing my games with Kindred, my saves on average were safer and more coordinated. I have a lot of situations where I have 2 or 3 people going for the save at the same time, because on Kindred you can see which way the killer's going, and obviously if the killer is going the direction of a friendly survivor and they're not going towards you, you have a much safer window to go get the save, so it's a little bit more obvious who goes for the save. So that helps our saves be a little bit more coordinated. Also, we had instances where a killer would camp, but the problem being is that we can just see them camping if they're on Kindred. And a lot of killers will like to proxy camp as well, so they go in and out of the Kindred range, but we see them going in and out of the Kindred range. So we know that that person's being camped, so we either have to be A, safer with our saves, or B, just do gens to make up for the camp. Put in that gen time to make up for the camp. Now, I think it's interesting because when I played the other half of my games without Kindred, I didn't notice huge differences. We had some sloppy saves that definitely could have been prevented, but by and large, I didn't notice that huge of a difference. I didn't really notice, like, I wasn't like winning all my games that I had Kindred and then losing all the games I had without it. Honestly, my results were minimally better. They weren't a lot. It did help, and I did notice instances where I was like, oh, hey, that happened because of Kindred, and, you know, vice versa, where there were games where I'm like, man, if we had Kindred, that would have been a lot more coordinated. But it wasn't like winning games for us. It was just nice, and it was just helpful. And to that I say, isn't that kind of something that you want base kit? Like, they didn't give full brutal strength to killers. They didn't give full stabiffle to killers. They just gave them very, very short, weakened versions of them. Things that would be helpful, but not really win games or dramatically change the way the game goes, which is what I felt with Kindred. It just helped us be slightly more coordinated, but not enough that it was like super game changing. So I feel like that actually isn't a bad idea. This is something that when I tested, I was pleasantly surprised, because my thing is, like, whenever you're trying to make something base kit, you gotta think about, like, not making that thing that you make base kit too powerful, because if you make that too powerful, that bolsts the roll too high. So you always want to make very, very, very minimal strength changes when you're adjusting base kit. And I think Kindred is a minimal strength thing. I think it helps, but not a crazy amount, which is, you know, a perfect candidate in that regard. But that is not actually what won the poll. What actually won the poll was an activity status over on the left side of the screens. If you don't know what an activity status thing would look like, it'd be like on the left side of the screen. We already have something kind of like that if you really think about it. The obsession when they're in chase, they have the little mandibles that sway back and forth when they're in chase. That lets everybody know that the obsession is currently in chase, which allows you to adjust by, you know, going for a save, doing gens. Basically, that the killer is occupied chasing somebody right now. Now, an activity status would kind of apply that for everyone and everything. So there would be an like a totem icon would pop up if they were on a totem, a gen icon would pop up if they were on a gen, that sort of thing. So essentially, you know, without comms, what is happening, what your other teammates are doing throughout the game without even having to see them or be around them. Think about the last time you ran something like Any Means, Alert, or even Bond, Empathy, and you had that information of what that other character was doing without actually having to be like physically present for it, and how much that info was incredibly helpful to you, and how much that did positively affect your games. I think when you look at it from that lens, you can see how much that helps, I think you can see like how in those little instances of either the perks or like the obsession mandibles, how much little instances of like an activity status in the game that already exists is beneficial. I think it's easy to see how much having something like that in the game would be beneficial. And then the question comes up after that is like, is that too strong? Is that too much? And honestly, that's one I've had a hard time qualifying for me. I don't know. I really don't know on that one. For me, I'm like 50-50 with it. I think it'd be really great, really awesome, and really helpful, but I don't know if it would adversely affect things in a poor way. And I don't know. I literally, this is something I'm 50-50 with, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it, because I would love to have that. I imagined like during my solo queue experiences that I'm like, that'd be fun. I would love to have had that. You know, I would love to have that on, but I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that's going to adversely affect the killer side too much. And the fact that I kind of can't think of anything off the top of my head kind of maybe says something, but you know, I'm just one person. I don't know everything. So that's why I want to lobby you guys. Is there potential problems with having an activity status? What kind of negative effects would that have? Or is it just kind of a good thing to put in the game? Honestly, if I were in charge, if I was like in front of, I was the leader of behavior out of nowhere, and I could make any changes to the game I want, and I was in charge of fixing solo queue, I would put through Kindred base kit, and I would just kind of wait, see how much that helps, see if that does enough to help a lot, and if it doesn't, then maybe we try the activity stats. That's what I would do if I were in charge of behavior, like out of nowhere. But yeah, let me know what you think about the activity stats. It was obviously the most voted thing on the community tab, so you guys think it's a great idea. I just want to know, like, what do you think of the ins and outs of it? Do you think it's really great, or do you think it might potentially be too strong? Let me know down in the comments below, but I feel like those two are kind of like good ways to adjust solo queue, and if those things came to pass, I feel like it would actually make solo queue a lot more bearable, especially the Kindred base kit change. I was happily surprised in my testing to find that that was great without being too great, and I think that'd be a great way to adjust things. But other than that, that's it for today's video, friends. I will see you in the tomorrow video, because I do upload daily, but if I don't, I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.